You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.
Hello, and welcome out there in comedy land. No, podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, a podcast where two old friends get together. We talk about movies, science fiction and horror movies in particular, the key elements of those films, things that influenced them, and then things that they in turn influenced later on. My name is David. I'm here with my good friend Tim. Hello, Tim.
Hello, David. How's it going?
It's going well. We want to welcome everybody. If this is your first time finding Johnny Has the Keys, wow, excellent. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Please feel free to join us again if you enjoy it. If you're a returning guest, thanks for coming back. And we hope you also subscribe and click and do all those fun things that people do that keep us going, sort of thing. What have you been doing? What have you been up to?
I don't know. I'm still laughing because you kind of flipped the countdown on me backwards and it threw me off guard. I was like waiting to say one, but I had to say three.
Yeah, and it's hard to do it backwards. You know, it's like dyslexia.
Yeah, it's Sesame Street all over again. Count. What have I been doing? I have been thinking about how near summer is and how hot it will be, and if it could potentially be hotter in a cannibal holocaust.
Oh, well, of course, cannibal holocausts are very warm.
They're more than warm. They're very filling. Yes, I went back in time to 1980 to see a little gem called Cannibal Holocaust. I watched this movie not under false pretenses, but I thought I was watching a different movie.
Okay.
I was looking for a movie I saw. It was one of the first movies I ever rented on videotape called Dr. Butcher, MD. And that is like the American title. The real title is Zombie Holocaust. So I was watching Cannibal Holocaust going, wait a minute. This is not
Where's Dr. Butcher?
Right. Yeah, where's Dr. Butcher and the zombies?
Yeah.
So this little movie, though, is pretty famous. It inspired, what's his name?
Don't say Eli Roth. Don't say Eli Roth.
Eli Roth to direct The Green Inferno, which I also watched. The reason he called it The Green Inferno is because they refer to the jungle in Cannibal Holocaust as the Green Inferno. He just kind of lifted that for a title. And it is a blatant homage to the movie Cannibal Holocaust. Cannibal Holocaust stars a guy named Robert Kerman, who actually had decent acting chops. And I was like, who is this guy? So I did a little research and I found out he's a porno actor.
Oh, well, there you go.
But he's one of the few porno actors that successfully did movie acting too. Okay. And I mean, he was successful in porno. He was with the biggies. He was with Vanessa Del Rio, Seika, Ginger Lynn. He was in Debbie Does Dallas. I mean, this guy got around, but he was actually pretty good in Cannibal Holocaust, which is a movie.
And he lived. Yes.
What's that?
And he lived through that era, the 70s, 80s.
Well, he thrived porno wise from 75 to 85, and he still did a little bit of acting, but he kind of gave it up by 90, I think. And he's dead now. He died a couple of years ago. Anyway, it's about some found footage of some stupid idiot teenagers that went down into the jungles and ended up getting eaten by a bunch of cannibals. And he's like a research, PhD in anthropology. And he goes down there and finds the films and brings them back. And basically that's what the movie's about. It's pretty shocking. I mean, there's like some human impalement in it and a lot of gut eating. Green Inferno was by far better, even though it's Eli Roth. And I don't totally dislike Eli Roth. I mean, I know he got a bad rap for doing torture porn, but it's clear that he was influenced by that movie, and at least he has somewhat of a respect for things that came before him. And it does have a decent script and good actors, and somewhat more believability, and it's intense. It's pretty intense for people out there. I mean, if you know you're going to be, you're going to be lunch and you're basically being held in a cage with a bunch of pigs, you might have some feelings.
You might have some feels in there, yeah. About that.
So yeah, I've been having a cannibal weekend. That's been what's going on in my world. What's going on in your world?
Eli is just one of those that, it's not that I think he's incompetent. I don't think he's a bad director. I think that he is derivative in the projects he picks. I don't see a lot of original. I mean, I'm not seeing any Mike Flanaganisms or stuff from him, but yet he's so heavily regarded in like the horror industry. I mean, he gets his own like shows where he gets to comment and do documentaries and all this kind of stuff.
That's
going,
AMC.
Who cares what Eli Roth thinks?
Yeah,
but
you can thank Shudder and AMC for that.
So yeah, it's like him and who's the what's his name from Walking Dead that I don't respect very much.
Greg Nicotero.
Nicotero, yeah. But anyway, I mean, so I have seen the trailers for Greene Inferno, and I have looked at it before, thought, I might want to watch that. But then again, it says Eli Roth, and I go, no. It's like,
I watched Cabin Fever back when it came out, and I thought, oh, this is going to be good. It looks like either a slasher film or The Evil Dead. And then it ends up being like a flesh-eating bacteria.
Yeah.
I know. And I was like, I'm kind of let down a little bit, because I thought it was going to be what it was going to be, and it ended up being. So when you say he doesn't do anything different, I immediately think he kind of did something different there.
Yeah, but that was like his Evil Dead without the book. I mean, basically that's what he was doing with that. It was, I'm riding away, I'm going to take people with me.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I watched that. I watched Hostel.
Hostel's what put him on the map, I think. I think that's what got him, up there, like you said, as far as commentary.
I'm sure.
And basically Greene Inferno is just Hostel in the woods. I mean, in the jungle. Let's say it that way.
I still in the jungle. Yeah.
Now, I will say there are elements of Cannibal Holocaust that are really disturbing. Like they kill real animals in it. It is obvious that they are killing real animals in it. And the director, since it's an Italian film, has since said, I regret doing that. I would never do that again. So that doesn't happen, obviously, in Greene Inferno. But back then, it was the late 70s, and they got away with a lot of shit.
Exploitation movies got to do what they got to do.
Yeah, one of them's a big sea turtle, a giant like river turtle, I guess. But
only 3 animals died in the making of this movie. Yeah. So,
No, about 4 or 5.
I haven't done anything that exciting. All I've been doing since last week is I've been catching up on The Expanse. So I'm hoping to finish the latest season this week. And that's basically it. I mean, I've talked enough about The Expanse to that all of our listeners know that they should already be watching it.
I've been considering it. I'm trying to read more though.
Yeah, incredible characters, just such good science, such good story. It always keeps building and building in ways that you never thought. It is each season is like its own little arc. It's very Babylon 5 sort of structure, or Buffy, I guess, sort of structure. Each season, because it's based on a book or a couple of books per season, has a natural arc to it. But then it surprises you the next season how it builds from what just happened, and now we've got this, and then we've got a bigger culture, and this is building, and so everything is building up. I think they're going to do one more season, a season 8, and that's going to be it. But
that's Amazon, right?
Yes, because Jeff Bezos saved it. It was actually canceled by Sci-Fi, like they do everything that's good.
Well, there's not a lot good on Sci-Fi, though.
Correct. But when they do get something that's really good, you think, oh, smart, keep that one. And they go, nah, we're going to do Sharknado 5.
Yeah, it doesn't have enough flying sharks in it.
Yeah. So that's all that I've been doing, other than, watching our little gym for today sort of thing.
Well, did you did you finish either The Boys or WandaVision?
I did finish WandaVision. Yes, I did finish WandaVision. Wow.
Okay.
And we definitely should do an episode just about WandaVision.
Okay.
I think it does a lot for, again, to my point about The Expanse, just when the MCU kind of finishes this huge arc and you think it's done, they figure out ways to continue it and do it in kind of unique ways. So,
yeah. I was listening to a podcast today talking about, the lack of movies coming out this year because of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And they were talking about every movie, even though it's not necessarily a great movie, is going to be huge. And Black Widow comes out in May.
Yes.
Yep. I was like, that movie is going to kill.
I hope so. I mean, I'm surprised. That was one of my disappointments in what they call it, the first phase or whatever they've called the past 20 movies, is that she didn't get her standalone in that era, which she should have, especially the way, Infinity Wars and Endgame plays out.
I just realized that this episode airs in May, so it's out.
So yes, hope you guys enjoyed Black Widow.
Sorry, I didn't mean to trip on my timestamp there. Sorry.
Ruined the whole thing. Now they're not going to believe when we do these.
Right.
But yeah, I wish he had gotten it earlier before Endgame and Infinity Wars, but hopefully it's good.
Yeah.
Let's watch it this week.
Or whenever, sometime in May, sometime this month.
Yeah.
Well, so speaking of time travel, we could venture back into our topic today, which it goes all the way back to 1968.
Yes.
And we are in horror country, which is my favorite place to be. And we are talking about a movie I had never seen, from a very well-regarded studio of the time, Hammer Films in England. It's a movie called The Devil Rides Out. This movie has a bit of a pedigree.
In a lot of ways, I think.
And did you like the movie?
I did, actually.
Good.
I like Terrence Fisher a lot. I think he's a very good director of that time frame. I think he was like, for horror, what Robert Weiss was for the mainstream movies. He picks unique angles. He does great work with his lighting and his storytelling. And I think what he did for Hammer was awesome. I liked this movie. I thought it had some genuinely really cool scares to it. I also liked it because I have always been fascinated by the Golden Circle and all of the, Satanism and, Aleister Crowley and Dennis Wheatley and all of the, the modern day Satanist sort of approach.
Was Dennis Wheatley a Satanist? I thought he was just a prolific writer.
He was essentially an anti-Satanist. He did a lot of occult books, like nonfiction occult books as well. And you see his name,
because I've been researching him, and he has a shit ton of books out, but most of what I saw was fiction.
Well, he has some nonfictions, and you see that a lot, that he was you could tell in this too, because, he's very knowledgeable about it. You have to be knowledgeable enough to change it so that it's not real, but seems real. Kind of
thing.
I
read that he had lunch with Aleister Crowley too. And when doing research, I guess, for these Richelieu books, Duc de Richleau.
Yeah, and Golden Dawn was that book and that whole movement and everything else was very big at this time in the 70s, in the late 60s, early 70s. So it became a really, I liked that parts of it that were what would you call it? A cult, maybe, I guess. Yeah.
No, satanic. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, outright, this is outright satanic. It's not just saying, it's not just cloaking it with occult. It's like, no, that's Satan over there on the other side of that hill.
No, it's sitting on that rock.
That's the big dog right there, or the big goat. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think? You hadn't seen it before either.
I had never seen it. I am a huge Terrence Fisher fan. For those of you that don't know, he did some of the giants of Hammer Studios, including Dracula, or The Horror of Dracula, The Mummy, Curse of the Werewolf, Phantom of the Opera, The Gorgon, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
He did a lot. And
he knew how to add the glamour to the era without it being campy, like the Raven was. The Raven was really campy in the way it was portrayed. This one, you still have British speaking people, and they're still in these nice vehicles and still in these big mansions, but everything seems more realistic.
Well, it was a little
stylization that works.
Yeah, I mean, the hairstyles on the women were clearly 60s, but the cars were earlier, so I couldn't really figure out what year it was. Could you?
Well, it's England, so they could drive very expensive older cars.
Yeah, they do, and they live on estates.
And even on the estates with multi-headed winged dragons in front of it.
We have Christopher Lee playing the Duc de Richleau. It's for once he's playing a good guy. He's usually the bad guy or Dracula. And his friend Rex have a young charge named Simon that they discover has hilariously fallen into the hands of a satanic cult. They're at like some kind of party, and Christopher Lee, they're asked to leave because something is about to happen. And Christopher Lee says, I keep calling him that because it's easier to say. The guy's name is, what do you remember his first name? It's the Duc de Richelieu, but he had a first name.
It was not a duke, but it was like a Monsignor. It was something because they referred to him very formally.
Right. Maybe Duc de Richelieu is just a 3-part name because it's D-U-C.
Right. That's like his first name. Like Jean.
No, his first name, they at the very first scene, Simon says his name, and I can't remember what it is. Anyway, it's not important. But before they go, he suspects something, and he goes, "Oh, you have an observatory. I would like to see it." And he goes running up the stairs. Mm-hmm. And when they get up there to where the telescope is, he notices the floor has strange drawings on it. And then he finds live chickens in a closet.
Mm-hmm.
And he determines, oh my God, it's Satanism. And they sock Simon and knock him out to take him away because he's under the spell and they want to save him. And it turns out that they were not only like initiating Simon into their clutches, but also a young woman named Tanith. And basically the movie it goes back and forth, them trying to save Tanith and Simon from Mocata, who is played by Charles, what's his face?
Right.
Gray. He is the villain, the head Satan worshiper, and chaos ensues.
Yes.
Not chaos, but a lot of running around in cars fast. So, but anyway, like I said, I did enjoy this movie. I know that it is dated and would probably seem slow to a modern day audience, but I was thrilled with it because it's the kind of movie I would have loved as a kid, and I never saw it, so I didn't know what was going to happen.
Well, and it has different things that I think a lot of horror movies at the time didn't have because, late 60s, everything was a little bit, horror-wise, was a little bit exploitational. And this was, it has a car chase in it. It has a bunch of history to it and liturgy and stuff like that. And also just relationships between the characters that, I will say as a negative, they do have a hell of a punch because they're able to hit people and knock them out for however many hours it takes to drive to the next house. I thought that was interesting, but
yeah, there was a little bit of a disbelief suspension going on. Rex also falls in love with Tanith really fast.
Yeah, and there's also I can hypnotize you in 30 seconds cliche. You know, as long as you listen to my voice, you will fall asleep.
Look in this mirror.
Yes. I did think that was clever. I thought that was different because, you know, we've seen other movies. Even what was the one that we saw this season, I think, where he held the mirror up to his eyes to hypnotize him.
You know what? I think it might have been,
wasn't it Curse of the Demon?
That's what I was going to say. I think it was Curse of the Demon, which this would have been a great double feature with that movie had I known, because I hadn't seen either one of them.
Well, and that was one of my huge keys, was this is very Curse of the Demon in places, again, trying to catch a very, I'm so superior to you because I'm this grand wizard sort of evil magician thing, and ends up getting, you know, foisted on his own petard kind of thing at the end, because it turns out that Tanith was actually his medium, and when she is killed by him, she takes her own little revenge against him in a very clever way, which goes to screenplay, which is by one of your guys, one of your favorites.
Oh yeah, Richard Matheson.
This one he done good. Last one, Raven, he done not good. This one
wasn't good. But you got to remember, it was also Roger Corman versus Terrence Fisher.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
I mean, you had a much better director with this one as well. Corman could have effed with Matheson's script. We don't know.
Yes, true. So true.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, I mean, I like a lot of the scenes in this. I like, you know, other than the music being a little bit overblown, like when we find our chickens and we have to hit this stinger, da, 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 there are chickens in a basket. You know, we didn't really need that, but
that's hilarious. There are chickens in the basket.
I think Christopher Lee is really strong in this. I think Charles Gray is his normal self. I could see him going, you know, just jumping into Rocky Horror at any moment, especially when he's sitting there hypnotizing the ant, you know, sort of thing.
I just kept thinking the man with no fucking neck.
Yeah, I kept thinking the same thing. Where's his
it's the man with no fucking neck.
But I like the I like the spider scene. I thought was really well done and really scary and cool the way they did it.
I read, since we're getting there, we watched a really bad print of this movie because we couldn't, like the Praying Mantis movie, we could not find a copy of this, and we had to find it on an obscure app called Daily Motion. And I read that the Blu-ray of this film is great because they take out special effects that are obvious, like the horseman when he comes into the room and the spider. It's quite clearly a projection, and they somehow take that projection aspect out with the Blu-rays, so it looks better.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because it looks almost like it's being projected from the doorway. Did it look like that to you? I thought it did, like a film.
But very, very clever. I mean, they obviously used a real spider, which was great for that. And it was scary. And I love when it would, you know, come up on its legs and you could see its little nasty tooth or fangs and stuff.
You know, I hate that.
I'm sure your arachnophobia was really happy there, especially when the girl came in. The little girl came in and be like, no, run away. I thought the horseman was unique because I couldn't tell you, we never saw the rider. I thought that was kind of interesting the way he did that one too.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of The Young Ones. The four horsemen of the apocalypse. Death, pestilence, and the other one. I thought Christopher Lee was really strong in this. I did too. I also read that it's his favorite Hammer film.
It makes sense. He's not over the top like he's sometimes got in the later Dracula movies.
Well, Dracula came before this actually, but
he's not the.
He did do 1972 because remember there was one that had 1972 in the title.
Yeah. He's not the, oh, I'm just going to use my voice like he did in Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, sort of thing. So he's good in this. And I think, and also like the other guy, he would have made, I kept looking at him, the co-star guy, his
Rex.
And I kept thinking, I wouldn't have cast him as James Bond, but I would cast him as like in the Avengers, a Jonathan Steed or something.
I was fascinated by him because I thought he was kind of good looking. And I did some research, and he was an opera singer. And he did do a lot of acting, never married. Ding, 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 ding. That's the first thing I thought was, yeah, he's probably gay. But and he's still alive. He's 90.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, if you look for him out there, he's in a lot of British stuff. He just never was huge, but he also was, an opera singer. I was like,
well, I saw
man,
in doing just I only did a little bit of research on this, but I did see that something in Dennis Wheatley's background was actually an influence on Ian Fleming.
Okay. I was going to get to that.
Well, okay, go there. Cause I don't remember what it was.
About, the people that brought us this movie, Hammer and Terrence Fisher, but it was based on a book written by Dennis Wheatley, and I had never heard of him. So naturally, I want to know more about him. And would even consider reading one of his books, thinking he probably just has a few out there. He has so many books. He has 3 series that are 11 to 12 books each. One of them is this Duc de Richleau, however you say it,
de Richleau
character. And those are his like Satan books or whatever, his Satan fiction. He did one called The Forbidden Territory, The Devil Rides Out, The Golden Spaniard, and on and on and on. So Hammer wanted to do a movie based on The Devil Rides Out I want to say it was per Matheson's request. Someone said, it was actually Christopher Lee's request.
Christopher Lee.
Yeah. And Matheson adapted the book into the movie. But the other series that I mentioned, one is called the Gregory Sallust series. And apparently that is the series that inspired Ian Fleming to create James Bond.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I might want to read one of those then, because
they started in the 30s and he published them up until 1968. So he was still writing them as Fleming had already started writing Bond in the 50s. I think he started writing those in the 50s.
Yep.
So, but yeah, this guy inspired. So we've got a little bit of a key within there as far as literary, is that this guy that wrote this book that made this movie for him went on to inspire Ian Fleming to create James Bond. I found that fascinating.
And it goes along again with find good writers and good novelists and translate their work. I don't know why, other than Stephen King, who now is, got everything he's ever written is going to eventually be made into some kind of cinematic version.
Well, they've caught on with him. They just haven't caught on with everyone else.
I don't know why people don't find good authors out there and use their works. One of the things that, again, Star Trek wise, one of the things that I liked about the original series was they actually hired science fiction writers and said, give us a treatment. Now, he pissed off quite a few of them, but at least they got their stories and everything else. So why aren't other people doing that? Why aren't they using good writers to write for series rather than let's hire a bunch of guys out of the Writers Guild and put them in a room and have them come up with stuff, sort of thing. I'm just curious about that. I saw something just posted, the other day about somebody saying, this is one of my favorite episodes of the new Twilight Zone, which was out in the 80s, and it's based on a short story by Ben Bova. And I went, yeah, good.
I recognize that name.
Yeah, take a good science fiction writer and do one of his short stories. We don't have that a lot anymore. You don't see that.
I don't know why that is. I mean, there's always been, I don't know if it's a stereotype. It started for a reason, though, where the writers were always kind of frowned on. yeah, give us the script now, see you later or whatever.
Right.
And I think there are writers out there that have been very good with that. Stephen King only got pissed a couple of times, once with Kubrick and maybe with Toby Hooper. I can't remember, but King learned to just divorce himself of it. And just say, you know what? Okay, that's their version of my story.
Yep.
And just sit back. Anne Rice couldn't. I mean, she freaked out when she found out Tom Cruise was in that Interview with a Vampire. So maybe writers have a reputation for interfering. I don't know.
Possibly. I think that may have come from the 50s and 60s a little bit, maybe, because that's where, television, films especially, were getting a lot of their scripts from. But also I assume it might also have something to do with like royalties and acquisitions and all that. The contracting to go through the rights, or who owns what, or is the IP totally signed over or not, yada yada.
Well, yeah, they buy an option to make it, and I would say it probably means that they own it until it reverts back to the writer, so the writer has no say. Would be my guess. I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe writers maybe writers in turn charge too much, because they don't want somebody to do that. Like, Spielberg and the Duffers are doing Talisman, which Spielberg bought before the book even came out.
He bought that in like 1980. It's been he's had that property for 40 years at least.
Yeah, just sitting on it, waiting to do it. So maybe it's something like that too. It has to do with rights, royalties, residuals, all that stuff. I don't know. I think there's so many great writers out there that aren't in the medium. Why don't you use their work? Like this is somebody took this book and Richard Matheson said, hey, I'm going to adapt this book and we're going to turn it into a movie.
Agree.
Yay, do that.
I mean, you're not going to get an argument from me. I was just trying to break down why, obviously there's something. Mm-hmm. You would think, there's not enough creativity out there. When I see some stuff on television here lately, though, it makes me think there is, like The Boys and like WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
So, the creativity is out there. I don't know if that's coming from the comic book world. I don't know if that's coming from, so obviously the stories that set up both those series did come originally from comics.
Oh, yeah.
So
same as Walking Dead. All three came from comic books or graphic novels. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, to your point, there's a plethora of that happening right now. Everybody's going back to the comic book well to get new stuff. I have in my notes, it's going to be a good movie where the older hero is a rich guy who has a chauffeur meeting the young, handsome guy who flies his own plane to the meeting. I said, that's pretty cool.
I love it when he goes, I need a car. Yes, take one.
Yeah, take one. Uh-huh.
I was like, yeah, Christopher Lee's got some money, and he's got his little Fu Manchu mustache, which is kind of funny because that's usually associated with the devil back then anyway.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. He had a goatee, and he's the bad guy, and Charles Gray does not, and he's the good guy. He's the bad guy. Yeah. I did think Gray's motivation was a little bit weak in it. We only kind of got.
We don't know much about him or why he's doing that.
Correct. We only kind of got what de Richleau said. I'm assuming because this is the greatest holiday of the Sabbat of the year that he wants to, consummate both of their, initiations or whatever. And I'm like, and what do you get out of that?
Yeah. I love when Rex follows Tanith to the big ceremony out in the woods or whatever, and then he leaves to drive back to Christopher Lee because he couldn't leave or he wouldn't know where she went, and they didn't have cell phones. And Lee's like, where have you been? Like, well, I couldn't leave, but he had to go back to tell him.
To like a payphone. Yeah.
There's a lot of cars moving around in this movie.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. There's a pretty good little car chase in this, and I was going, that's great to see that in a horror movie.
It was kind of suspenseful. I thought you're going really fast and there's no roofs on those cars.
And Charles Gray is going to whip something up through the rearview mirror.
Oh yeah, he made the glass go opaque and the guy couldn't
made the
see.
Windshield go opaque. Then he made all the fog come in. I mean, it was really, so that was unexpected. I have in my notes, I tried not to chuckle when the cross-eyed lady looked up because it reminded me of something you would just lose it over. As soon as she looked at him, and it was like,
well, that's not much different than that guy and the host last week.
Oh yeah.
This movie was made for very little money. It was like £300,000. I mean, I guess in '68 that would have been a little expensive, but Hammer was not known for spending a lot of money on movies.
No, but I mean, I think production values are fine all the way through it. I didn't see any bad sets. I didn't see really any bad, even the observatory set, although obviously a set, was still pretty good for that time period. Yeah.
I thought so too. I thought it was very strange when they went in that house to begin with, that there was an observatory. I was like, is that on the house? That's weird.
Yeah. Well, and they show it to you 3 different cuts. So I was going, obviously we're supposed to notice the observatory.
One last thing about Dennis Wheatley. He was very happy with this adaptation of his book. So I'm assuming the book must play out very similar.
I would assume. I have never read the book. It might be interesting to read that.
Yeah, I thought so too. You can get it on Amazon. I checked. It's like $7. Terrence Fisher had to be replaced during post-production because he was in a car accident.
Oh my gosh. Now there's some irony for you.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. But he had already finished filming. It was after the fact.
Right.
Mocata was based on Aleister Crowley. We mentioned that.
Of course. That's a big key for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole thing of having a Golden Dawn type coven of 13 members that you have to, meet periodically and do stuff, and you keep it ultra society, but under the radar, which I thought was good. I like that whole precept, very Richard Matheson, I thought, at the beginning of Christopher Lee going, listen into the conversations, and then he's just walking around the party and you're just getting these little snippets of people's conversations. I thought that was really clever. It was a nice scene, writing wise. Yeah,
I was just thinking about Satan or Satanic movies because they really became popular about 5 to 8 years later in like early to mid 70s.
Yeah, early 70s.
But this one predated that and did a really good job at it. It reminded me a lot of those movies that came along later, only I had never seen this.
True. I had never seen this either. That's why when I saw it on there, I thought, oh man, is this going to be like some weird, like the zombie Western or something?
I'm glad you brought that up. They changed the title for the US and they called it The Devil's Bride, because they thought it sounded like a Western, and it does sound like a Western.
Okay, I have that in my notes because I watched the trailer before I watched the movie, because they had the trailer on, when you could click on the app, you could see the trailer, and the trailer is all about The Devil's Bride, The Devil's Bride. And I was like, is this the wrong movie? What am I watching? I don't understand.
No, it's not. And it's like some of the movies we've been selecting for next season. Sometimes they have additional titles. One of the ones you chose has.
Well, that makes sense. Title. That makes sense. What did you think about the ending of this? The whole final big showdown ending and the way the little denouement after that kind of thing. Did you like it?
The showdown where they get to the church. Or it is a church, actually, because I think there's a cross hidden that comes out later. I didn't mind that at all. I thought it was kind of cool, and it all burns down and everything. But when they did the little denouement, I thought that was weird, because didn't he explain something like, oh, that means he's dead? And I was like, why didn't they show that?
Well, because he used that line about a life for a life, a soul for a soul.
Right. And he just assumes that the man with no fucking neck died because.
Yeah, I would have wanted see him at least on fire, maybe.
Well, and that's what
than-
I thought, because I read something. Remember, I was telling you that the Blu-ray supposedly restored some stuff and made it look better. They said you can clearly see him burning in the Blu-ray.
Well, maybe that's why. There is one shot when he was in the foreground and the whole tapestry fell, and you could see the cross in the background, and
Right.
the fire was everywhere. But because basically, for those who haven't seen it, why are you listening to us?
I'm telling you the whole movie.
We're telling you the whole movie. But Tanith actually, shows herself ethereally. She sends lightning that destroys the altar and catches the entire chapel on fire. Revealing that it really is a chapel, and reinforcing the whole God angle. I thought it was very interesting that at the very end of it, he thanks God for, everything. They do that weird time reset. That's what I was getting at. I thought I wonder if that was a Matheson thing.
I like that. I thought that
a-
was kind of cool.
I was wondering if that was a Wheatley thing or a Matheson thing, because that seems very Matheson, to reset the time just enough to let everything work.
Unless you read the book, you really don't know, because it would have been more of a downer ending had
definitely
Tanith been dead, and maybe Matheson or Fisher or Hammer said, you know what, let's have a happier ending, and he said, okay, I'll fix it, and he went back and did the time reset, which I thought was kind of clever. I didn't mind it at all.
Yeah, it was very interesting because they did, the way Fisher does it, he cuts back and they're in the circle again at Christopher Lee's place. And you're thinking, did they dream that? Are they
right?
What? And she goes, Polly or whomever, and the husband and wife get up and they run off. And Christopher Lee kind of stands up and he looks over and Tanith's body's not there. And then he goes to the window just like he did before. And I went, oh, okay. So he's using the same shots because we're supposed to think, because he showed that he did that same shot structure, because I went back and looked at it. At the beginning, only her body is there. And the mom has gone to look for the daughter and everything. And so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I did too. And that was why I had the question of whether or not Charles Gray was really dead. We keep saying Man with No Fucking Net and Charles Gray, but the character's name is Mocata, and he's the evil bad guy. And he does burn up in the church. But then when they do the time reset, I wasn't sure. I was like, if they went back, then he's probably still around. You see what I'm saying?
Right. But he explained that, no, the second time, by not taking Tanith, the angel of death still had to take someone, so he took Mocata.
Well, that was the cheat, though. I would like to have had a little bit more substance for that. I would like to have seen evidence of his death.
And I would have liked to have seen a little bit more change in Tanith, like she's less possessy and weird and kind of monotony, and maybe has a personality now.
I mean, I love the scenes where they're always trying to keep these people away from the cult, and they're clearly not going to stick around. I mean, the guy, Simon, gets up like twice. He even tries to strangle that one guy. And then when she wakes up, she's going to stab Rex, who's in love with her, which I was like, I love that scene. I thought that scene was great.
Well, no, she was not going to do that of her own free will. That was Mocata manipulating her.
Right.
In his hypnotic trance of the house. Lots of eyes in this movie. Those eye close-ups in this movie. There's a lot of that.
The lighting, like the Star Trek lighting on them. Yeah.
Yeah, across, which was a very Hammer thing. Hammer did use a lot of that sort of Finnerman lighting. Finnerman took a lot of that.
I've got a little bit on casting.
Okay.
Charles Gray was not the first choice to play Mocata. An actor named, I'll try to get this right, Gert Frobe?
Gert Frobe. Goldfinger.
Right. Another James Bond villain.
Yeah, baby. He would.
There's a lot of connections to James Bond in this movie.
He might have been. He might have been cool.
Was a James Bond villain too.
Yeah, he might have been cool to be Mocata. I think that
isn't Charles Gray
he's Blofeld.
Expect you to die.
Yeah.
That's that guy.
No, that's Goldfinger who goes, no, Mr. Baldwin, I expect you to die. But Charles Gray was Blofeld with the white cat. The one that...
That's right. Okay.
in the gray outfit, the one that Michael Myers makes fun of.
Right. Right.
You know,
And Austin
the whole
Powers.
Dr. Evil thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this movie stars 2 Bond villains and could have potentially starred another one had they recast it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That's very interesting to me. A lot of Bond going on in this movie.
That's some keys.
And then the only other thing I have, I mean, I could talk about these actors, but no one's going to know them. Leon Greene is the guy that played Rex. He's the opera singer I was telling you about. But the guy that played Simon's name was Patrick Mower. Guess who was supposed to be cast as that part, but had to pull out last minute?
He looked awfully familiar to me too. Oh, I don't know who.
Roddy McDowell. Can you imagine? It would have been even better if he'd have been in it, I think.
Yeah, I could have seen that, especially at that time period, late 60s, early 70s. That would be great for him.
Yeah, it says he had to care for a good friend that was ill named Louise Brooks, who I guess is also an actress. She had emphysema and arthritis. All right. Anyway, he had to help her out. He couldn't do this.
He had a personal obligation that prevented him from doing
Well, he was in New York, and they were filming, of course, in England, so that's why.
Yeah, anyway. That makes sense. He would have been pretty good, though. I could see that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it would have added even more depth to what I was saying, or the credentials of this film, because it's Hammer, Terrence Fisher, Richard Matheson, Christopher Lee, and then you've got Charles Gray and Roddy McDowell. I mean, it would have just added to it.
Oh, yeah.
As far as
we could have put Anne Margaret in
as horror, and
we could have put Anne Margaret in as Tanith.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The woman that played the mother.
Yes.
I can't remember what her.
She looked familiar too to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say she reminded me of like a '60s pop singer from Britain, like
I didn't
Petula Clark.
Yeah, she could have done that, but I pictured her. I mean, she looked familiar, like I've seen her in other films before.
Maybe. I don't know that I have. I always cut and paste the cast into my notes, and I didn't include her. I included the cross-eyed countess, though. She was played by Gwen Davies. Oh, wait a minute. Was her name Sarah? No, or was Sarah the little girl? I can't remember. Oh, well.
I can't remember.
It's not that important. This movie won no awards. And it is not on the 1001 movies you must see before you die.
But it was good. I would recommend it, especially for that. I mean, we've kind of been on, we've had some Satanic roll this year with a little bit of those. So I think it goes in that series. Like you said, I think this would make a great double feature with Curse of the Demon.
I do too.
think it would make
had we seen either of them, we could have put that together, but I
think it would have made a great triple feature with Wicker Man.
Wicker Man is Christopher Lee's favorite movie, but it's not a Hammer movie. This is his favorite Hammer movie.
But I mean, I've got it in my keys just because, it's him playing the opposite sort of thing. And it's still an evil,
I can see that.
An evil kind of cultish sort of thing.
It is. And they wear a lot of white robes too.
And they wear a lot of white robes. Yeah.
I've got one other trivia note that Richard Matheson did not include in the script. In the novel, The Devil Rides Out, there is a subplot of Satanists wanting to start a world war called, if they can obtain what is called the Talisman of Set, which is basically a mummified penis. At the end of the novel, the Duke destroys the phallic symbol. All of this was removed because the British censors would not have allowed it.
Well, probably not.
So no mummified penises in Hammer movies.
Well, now, but in both incantations, the one in the woods and the one in the chapel, he summons Set. He calls to Set. So I thought that was interesting. They kept that in there.
Oh, speaking of which, we didn't talk about scenes. And I love that scene where they're out in the woods and all of a sudden the devil's sitting up there on that rock.
Oh, yeah. And they bring a goat out and slit its throat and start drinking the blood. And
they don't show it, but it's still very effective when they kill that goat.
Yeah. Although yes, I thought the killing of the goat was very effective. I thought the Bacchanal was not very effective because it was like it was too G-rated. Bacchanal to me.
It looked like
you
a
know?
60s laugh-in party or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got thrown off in the chapel one because all of the symbols on the altar were like zodiac signs. I was going, okay, there's Pisces, there's Capricorn.
I didn't even notice. That's
You know,
hilarious.
I got thrown off with those.
I did notice that if I left the movie in its original box on the app, it looked better. But when I blew it up to the size of my tablet, the print was not as good.
It was a terrible version because, it was like 720 stream maybe, and that was bad. I mean, it was just not a good version. It would be nice to see the Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
I have a huge key that I want to, and I've mentioned this key before in a couple of other things, and I still don't think you have seen it. So I wanted you to put it on that obscure Tim watches a movie I've never heard of list.
Ticks?
No, not Ticks. Spectre.
You have mentioned this movie to me in the past, and I confuse it with a television show.
It was a made-for-television movie, but it is not Spectre the series.
Okay.
It is a made-for-television movie that was a pilot by Gene Roddenberry again, and it starred Clu Gulager is the lead in it, but
Clu
basically
Gulager, the like 80s slasher film guy. Clu
Gulager. He's a very handsome.
Isn't he?
My hair is firmly parted on the left, sort of guy.
Isn't he in Return of the Living Dead?
Yeah, when he's older. This was him much younger.
He did a lot of slasher movies in the 80s when he was older.
Okay. This was like early 70s or mid 70s. It was Roddenberry. It starts with a guy coming to meet a very, very smart professor type guy. Sound familiar? They have heard about another mansion in England where bad stuff is going on. So they're going to go over there. It turns out they're trying to raise Asmodeus. And it's a very sensual, demonic, satanic cult that's covering up for themselves. And it's just really well done. And I want you to look it up and watch it. If you can't find it, I have the DVD. So
I will, but there's a little bit of trepidation there because I have found that it is really hard to find TV movies. Most places don't have them.
Right.
You could find one on like that app that we just used to watch this, but there's just not a lot.
This one you might be able to find just because it's Roddenberry. It was one of his, like Quester tapes. It was one of those like 3 or 4 pilots that he tried to do that never got picked up, kind of thing.
I have some bootleg copies of TV movies that I had to order on eBay. Like there's a movie called The House That Wouldn't Die with Barbara Stanwyck that was an ABC television movie, and I think I have what is a bootlegged DVD of a VHS recording, so it looks like shit. And then I have one of a movie. It was a series called Circle of Fear. And it was this mud monster episode that I remembered from when I was a kid. And it had Jo Beth Williams in it. She's like a teenager. Really? And I have it, but it is clearly a DVD made from a VHS because these movies were never released. They were made cheap and they just got thrown in a closet somewhere and you can't find them. That's why I'm wondering if this Spectre is available.
Well, I have the DVD, so it is out there.
Okay, good.
What about keys from you? You have keys?
I have a few. A lot of them I named from the Bond connections. I had forgotten that I put those in my keys because there's a lot of Bond connections with this movie. One I did not know that I cut and pasted in here is that scenes from this movie are used in a 1982 video from Iron Maiden for a song called Number of the Beast. Which was like one of their bigger songs, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not a big Iron Maiden fan, but I thought that was interesting.
That is pretty cool.
And then just like you said, the devil movies. Curse of the Demon's a great one. It's like a direct relation. It's even got London and an Aleister Crowley type figure in it. God, what are some of the Satanic movies from
Well, I've got Rosemary's Baby.
Rosemary's Baby. Yeah.
Because of that whole cult influence in the family. I've got Dunwich Horror because, again, it's that something lies beneath the surface and we're not understanding what it is kind of thing. Spectre, of course, Wicker Man.
Spectre. I'm interested in that now. And what, Ozymandias, is that what you said?
Osmodeus, yeah, the demon.
I don't know who that is. I've heard of Ozymandias, but that's a Percy Shelley poem.
Yeah. No, this is, or Asmodeus. It's spelled with an A.
Okay.
And
is
some people
like
say
Egyptian.
And some people say Asmodeus. No, he's one of the he's one of the princes of hell. He's god of lechery, prince of corruption. So he's one of the evil seraphim.
Yeah, that's right.
Hell.
You were a Satanist at one time, weren't you? I remember that.
Wiccan. I was Wiccan. But I also I have in my keys Exorcist, just because of the child. You know, the child in danger is what makes us all, go to the
that was
final
pretty
ending.
Scary when he was getting ready to sacrifice her.
Oh, yeah.
I thought.
Yeah, I thought that was well done.
Yeah. Now all their robes reminded me of like All Saints Episcopal Church robes.
Yeah, I think they borrowed them from the vestry down the street, sort of thing. Yeah,
that's exactly. They went to some Catholic church and borrowed their robes.
I have some odd ones. I have Raiders of the Lost Ark because of the whole Wrath of God thing at the end. And that was very Wrath of God. All the heroes on one little side all huddled together. And then we just rained down fire and lightning on everybody else, sort of thing.
Okay, I could see that.
I've got, and my last one I think I've got is the Raven, because you have somebody who is normally a villain playing the hero in this, and in the Raven it was Vincent Price.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one is Christopher Lee.
That's a good key. It really is, and I mean the connection with Richard Matheson as well.
And it kind of made me want to look and see if Lee has some other ones where he doesn't play a bad guy. I'm sure he probably in his film career has.
You said something about Star Wars, but that's Peter Cushing.
No, Christopher Lee is Count Dooku in the prequel trilogies. Christopher Lee is Count Dooku. He's a Sith.
Okay.
He's the one that fights Yoda.
Yeah, I saw all those movies once, and I don't remember them.
Yeah, just repress them. Just don't worry about it.
I just know that Peter Cushing was in the original Star Wars.
He gets his head cut off by Anakin.
Okay.
With a dual lightsaber cut.
If I'm not mistaken, it's been so long since I've seen it, but isn't Christopher Lee in Sleepy Hollow? I think he is.
He might be. I don't know
if he's a bad guy though.
I also remember him, and I don't know what, I'll probably have to look up his credits, but I also remember him in a very Salem witch trial movie where he was like the pastor or something,
Damn.
Because I was going,
any movie of
do they speak with British accents in Salem, Massachusetts? I guess they did. Maybe.
Well, most of his movies were English, but I mean, he did some American movies, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then he was Saruman, of course,
Yeah. Goldfinger. No,
he didn't do
Man with the Golden Gun.
He was Man with the Golden Gun.
Yeah.
There's another Bond thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, villain.
Right, that's what I was saying. He's a villain. Charles Gray's a villain, and had they cast Gert, what's his face, he would have been a villain for Bond as well. Yeah. Let me see. I've got something else. We talked about Charles Gray. He played a different character apparently in You Only Live Twice. So he's in 2 Bond films. And then, like you said, Christopher Lee played Scaramanga, the nemesis of Roger Moore in The Man with the Golden Gun.
Now, I will say it's kind of a retro key, so to speak, but this movie, with all of its production values and storyline, everything else, was released the same year as 2001.
I know.
Just to show the difference in cinematic artistry
or
of
production
these
values. That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
films.
exactly.
Both filmed in England, both filmed with
Yeah, but I
with
mean, what was his budget? This was £280,000. So
what,
that's roughly what, $300,000?
Kubrick didn't care about a budget. What are you talking about?
That's what I was going to say. I mean, he probably had millions.
I'm sure. Yes, well, I am sure.
I mean, there was a time when Cleopatra was the biggest budgeted movie, and that was at $1 million. But that was in like what, 1960?
Yeah.
I don't know what year that. So this would have been 8 years later. So Kubrick could have had a bigger budget than Cleopatra, I would
Oh
think.
yeah. Yeah. I did look it up and found out I was wrong. I was sure that the bad guy that Christopher Lee played in Three Musketeers was Count Richelieu, but it's not. It's Count Rochefort. And I thought it was Richelieu, and I was going, dang it, I'm wrong.
Well, there is a Richelieu that is like a villain, I want to say. Isn't it in like that book, The Prince?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think I had to read it at some point in college. I do not remember it. But I had heard the name Richelieu before. That's why I knew how to pronounce it. I cannot remember what his name was. It was Rex and like Marvin or something. It wasn't Marvin, but Simon says his name in the very first scene.
Yeah,
they're friends.
Yeah, basically they're having. I think Simon mentions it because they're having a reunion because they've essentially pseudo adopted Simon because his father. They were friends with his father.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of that at the beginning went really fast too. I was having to catch up. I was like, okay, who is who and what are they doing?
Yeah, there was a lot of exposition just really fast.
Right.
So,
I mean, they're at the party and they're like, oh my God, they're Satanists. We have to get them away. And I'm like, that happened in 5 minutes.
Yes. That escalated quickly. Yeah, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway, I think it's safe to say that we would both recommend this movie. I quite enjoyed it, actually.
I did too.
So,
I enjoyed it. And I think I think this would be a really good precursor for people who've never seen a Hammer. Start out with this, because this has got some scary little moments to it, some good action, some good characters. And then you can dive into, Curse of Dracula. And
surprisingly, no nudity. I mean,
there was no big busty,
vampire women. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 2 years later, probably Tanith would have had a huge bustier kind of thing the whole time.
Or earlier.
Yeah.
Well, no, I guess the 70s was when the nudity started coming. But it seemed to me like there was busty women in like the Dracula movies of the 50s and 60s. I don't know.
I don't think so. Not in the 50s. Maybe. I mean, but isn't Hammer mostly early 60s? I mean, that's when they started, like 59, 60 in there. Wasn't that Hammer? Or are they late 60s?
You caught me off guard, but no, it started in the 50s. As a matter of fact, Dracula, Horror of Dracula, it has 2 titles. It's either Dracula or Horror of Dracula. It was 1957.
Okay, so
and
this was
I want to
10
say
years
Curse
later.
of Frankenstein was earlier.
This was 10 years later, and around the same time as probably Risen from the Grave or Dracula, another one of the Draculas or whatever, and there's no nudity. That's kind of interesting.
I thought so too. Because, I mean, it's a family satanic movie. And there's children in it.
Yes, because there's children.
There's children being sacrificed.
Yes.
And a very clean bacchanal.
And a very nice, just kind of, kiss my neck. Okay, we're good. Let's just dance over here.
We're drunken and cross-eyed.
Yeah. Bring on the goat.
Oh, okay. So
thanks for introducing me to this one. This was a good one.
I thought so too. I like fighting those that we've not seen that we actually like.
Yeah.
So that was
and for those of you listening or watching us on YouTube, thank you. Of course, Tim and I always want to say thanks for what you guys do. We want to please, as Tim says, ring that bell, subscribe, give us some stars, give us a good review, tell your friends, comment. You can follow us on the webpage. You can follow us on all your social medias. You can follow us on Johnny Has the Keys Facebook page, all that stuff.
You can still send your movie suggestions, but you may have to wait the following season because we pretty much finalized the next season. So.
Yes, but do send us stuff and tell us what you think. You know, Tim, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Scare you next time or whatever.
Actually, we're going into outer space next time with a killer one. So,
as we should.
As we should. I'll see you later.
See you later.
Bye.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.